What's up, you guys?
Welcome to the Sibling Duo Podcast.
I'm Daniel,
And I'm Tiffany.
and this is episode 1. Yeah, so this is basically the beginning of a new era and the end of an old one.
Okay, so it's been exactly 1 week since you got all moved in and everything. So that's just absolutely crazy though. The fact cuz like my brother's in college, like what the heck? I don't think it's actually like set in yet
Yeah.
that it's forever cuz I think that's like the one thing like I'm okay right now, but like the thought that like it's never going to be what it was is kind of the big like oh my gosh. So we dropped you off. It was super fast because we got there Friday. You moved in Saturday, and then Sunday we had to say goodbye. So that was crazy. We're going to do like questions. So I'm going to ask him some about college, like the first weekend. Side note, if you're listening to this and this is about to happen to you, you're about to like drop your sibling off at college, it's just as anticlimactic as you think it's going to be. It was like we just like walked out of the building and we were out of time. It was just like, all right, we're saying goodbye. And it was just like, okay, I guess this is it. So just so you know, it's very anticlimactic, I'd say. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say like what we did is we went into one of the buildings where the gift shop was, and we walked out, and it was kind of in the direct center of the campus, right? And so
Yep.
you guys went to the right and I went to the left after we
Yep.
like did our final hugs and everything. And so that was like a little bit of like kind of like a climactic, boom, big moment. And so I would definitely recommend making it like somewhat
Dramatic.
dramatic. Yeah. Yeah, so something like that, because it definitely helps when you kind of have like a set point where you guys have to leave, or
Yep.
else it's like, okay, are you gonna leave
Yeah, and
leave now?
also I think we also did it so like I mean, our whole life, like, or the past few years, like, we've been thinking about this. And so, like,
Yeah.
it's all been building up to the moment. So it's like, I'd say keep it short and sweet. Like, you don't have to say a whole life speech in that
No.
moment. It's just like, it's not. See, the weird thing about, like, this transition and stuff is it's not like someone dying or something where it's like that sort of a loss, but it's a loss in its own way. And so it's like we
Yeah.
get to do stuff like this and it's super fun, but it's also not what it was. So it's just like
Yeah.
how to even grieve that is kind of hard sometimes. But
Yeah.
so we just set up the moment. We gave each other our last hugs and then we walked away. So
Separate
we went
ways,
the
yeah.
one way, you went the other way, and then we kind of both like looked at each other a few times and like waved, and then we were like
Yep.
just started walking. By the way, just so you know, yes, I did cry. I did not want to cry in that moment. I didn't want to make you feel sad. And like, I knew that, I don't know, I just didn't want to have to cry. But another note to self, if you think you're going to cry and you don't want to cry, you're going to cry. So what was it like? So we left, we just went to our car and we started driving back immediately to Florida. We did it the 12 hours right away. We drove to like 1 a.m. So, but what was it like for you? You were sad probably and
Yeah.
happy. Like that
Yeah.
just explain.
All right. So yeah, they went one way, I went the other way, and it was definitely like a very as a moment that like everyone kind of thinks about, like it's like in the movies, it's in the books, it's all type of thing. So at that point I actually went and like texted one of my friends like, yep, I it's official, I I left my family, or they left me, I guess. And then we still had like 5 minutes until I was supposed to meet like this like orientation group I was supposed to go with. So I kind of just like stood there and was like, dang, this is like kind of sad. Like, and I didn't cry. I didn't actually like start crying, but if I had like wanted to, I probably could have. It was kind of sad. It was probably the
Yeah.
weirdest moment at that point. But then I went over and went to my group and stuff, and I remember just like kind of just standing there like, all right, yep, yeah, like, what else am I gonna do? And I think what I also like kind of realized in the few days after was like there's like when your family leaves, like it's obviously very sad, and it's more sad because you know that it's not going to be the same as it was like all your growing up. But at the same time, it's like if you're going to college, most likely to, either get a degree, which is what everyone's doing, to, pursue a different career,
Mhm.
or, I'm doing sports as well. So doing sports, for
Mhm.
doing that, whatever it is that brought you to the school you're going to, you're doing that to prepare you for something later in life, right? So at this point, like you've done everything in high school leading up to this point and just the next steps, there's nothing really left for you like back where you are except for basically your entire community and your thing, basically everything that matters except for what you need to do to go on in life. So it's kind of like one of those moments where you can't really go back, but you just
Yeah.
gotta go forward now.
Like we wouldn't want anything else, but it's also so weird, and it's like it's just such a weird feeling. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Just it feels sickening, and then you have like that lump in your throat, and then like there's sometimes where it's like
So
happy
sad.
or like I don't know, like yay, like what you get to do, and then there was sometimes that I would try to make myself feel better and be like, I get a whole bathroom to myself. I don't have to be quiet anymore. We got home and I had school the next day. That's why my dad wanted us to get I could go to school. But it was like 1 a.m. at that point, and my mom and I were like, we cannot go to bed. Like we had 12 hours, but
Yeah.
wasn't it didn't seem like very long. So we actually went out and just walked and talked for a very long time.
Okay.
Because the weird thing was, this major life thing just happened, and then life just resumes. And it was
Yeah.
just kind of really weird.
All right, well, let's transition to our next question here. This is for you. So, what did you learn about friendship in middle school, and how did that affect the friendships that you hope to develop now in high school?
Yeah, okay, so that's a pretty big question. So, for middle school, my first year in middle school was the year after COVID. It was
Yeah.
definitely weird going back. Um, and I think the hardest part about friendships, especially in middle school, is like everyone's trying to figure it out and no one really knows, but
Yeah.
everyone acts like they know. And so
Mm.
it's hard because you feel alone, but you're really not. But
Yeah.
it's hard to tell yourself that, and no one really talks about it. And so it's hard because um you want friendships, but it's actually really hard to get
Mm.
friendships. And um so we were there's this, I think you have a picture of it, the kind of the different circles of friendship. So
Yeah.
there's the inner, like your best friends, and
Yep.
there's usually like
3, 5.
2 to 5
Yep.
like people that are really close to you. And then outside of that there are acquaintance, is
There's
that the
like it's like your
friends?
village,
Your
25
It's
people,
village, okay,
50.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then outside of that are your like
Acquaintances. Yeah.
acquaintances, which is about like what, 100 to
Like 500. Yeah.
500, yeah. And so it's hard because yeah, everyone wants that, but at the same time, like you can't just all of a sudden have your best friends.
Yep.
And so there is that stage where it's like you don't have that inner circle.
Yeah.
Um and so I think what I've learned, and think you model really well, or I've seen you do in your life, is I am quick to be like wanting that, and like I would almost fall for surface level stuff when I've
Mm.
seen you, like you're really good about intentionally picking friends and having a good circle of people.
Mm.
And I think you shouldn't, like, you really have to, you don't have to rush into it. Like, I think people in middle school and high school, like, they think that's their life.
Mm.
But I think with you going to college, I've realized there's so much more. And so, like, yes, it's fun to be the most popular kid and all this stuff, but like, it's better. I think I wanted to get into this with the next question, of Oh, number one tip for middle schoolers when they become high
Yes.
schoolers.
Yeah.
And it kind of all relates. So, do you mind if I just kind of talk
Sure.
about
Yeah.
that? Um, I think you have to be confident in who you are, and we're Christians, and that is the basis of it. Like, if you're not
Yeah.
confident in who you are and who God sees you as,
Yeah.
it's very, very hard to
Hmm.
go about life and go through middle school because middle school is hard.
Yeah.
And um, you had to do it in COVID. So that was even more hard for you. So you felt
Yeah.
even more isolated and more alone. And
Yeah.
that was before technology. So you couldn't even call people.
Yeah. I didn't have a
So,
phone.
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I would say honestly, ironically, I feel like what you're talking about is actually very similar to what I was going to bring up next. So with that, like three breakdown of the friendships and all that type of thing, um, I think the weirdest thing about going to college that I've had is that I have grown up with pretty much the same type and group of people my entire life. I mean, people have come in and out and have moved or whatever, but I always have had like that core group of people, and then depending on what I was involved with and what we were involved with, we would have kind of that like 25 to 50 that we were pretty close with, that were like developed friends, that were friends that we mostly like became close to because of what we did. And then the
Yeah.
other like 100 to 500, they say, was other people that we were like around a lot. But when you go to college, everyone is like brand new. I mean, some people may know
Yeah.
people from high school.
Hmm.
What you were saying about how people, all want friendships so bad, but then some of them, like you said, settle for like surface level stuff and almost like they
Hmm.
act like they have it. That's
Hmm.
100% how it has been, at least. Like
Yeah.
I got to school like the first day, and obviously like pretty much no one knows each other. Everyone's from like hundreds
Right.
of miles away,
Yeah.
and but I'm like walking around, there's people that are like hanging out all the time, that seem to be like really good friends already. And I think a lot of people, at least that I'm around, like they either pretend to be like super good friends almost to
Yeah.
act like they're not alone,
Yeah.
or they like kind of put on the facade that they're like super like you know popular, or like super like they got all the friends and stuff. And I think that's really weird because everyone at this point really doesn't have any like actual friends, like any like best friends
Right.
at college. I think that's the honestly the worst part about moving
Yeah.
and stuff, is that you don't have any. I mean, I have the people back home that you can
Right.
call, but they're not like with you all the time anymore. And I think like it takes a long time to grow old friends, and
Yeah.
when you don't have like all that time yet, it's just you're kind of floating around, and obviously with time that will come for everyone, including me. But it's definitely, I think, a big difference and a big challenge of, you have to find people that you know you can become friends with, but you have to like be intentional to do that rather than like
Right.
being given to you. And like especially as you were saying, when you like actually know what you believe, then it's a lot easier, and you like have it deep within you. It's easier to communicate that confidently and like calmly as well, and not be like super intimidated and like pushed down by peer pressure.
Yeah. So college, has it felt like lonely because you can't just go and have those deep conversations because the people you don't know well. So like I can only imagine that's hard. Like what has
Yeah.
that been like?
Oh yeah, 100%. I would say, I mean, I have met a few people here and there that have been great and stuff. I'm almost walking to different worlds every time I go into, different
Yeah.
places. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you know, like, internally, like, who you are, and are able to kind of just stay on the road, and not be like, oh, I got to be this, I got to be that.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier, and it's really hard to do. But yes, it is definitely lonely. But I have you guys, and I do have
Yeah.
great friends back home that I have been able to talk to and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I will more, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think this takes time, but it's hard to like meet people if you're not intentional. So if you're in
Mhm.
college, like, I don't know, just do something. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I think with that, illustration that we were talking about with like the best friends, the village, and then the acquaintances, I would say like they have to start on the outside and then like almost make their way in. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a hard thing because like in our head sometimes we get like, oh, I just want a best friend,
Yeah, right
but
away.
right away, but they have to start. You have to meet them, so they have to start as an acquaintance, and then you're intentional, and they become a part of your village, and then they become close and become a really good friend. And so it takes time, and that's hard sometimes.
Yeah, for
But
sure. And in college, you like have like 500 acquaintances like that. I mean, that first week you meet so many people, right? And if you're going to college, you'll have the same thing. I mean, you're going to meet a bunch of people. So definitely realize that you're going to have a lot of people, but you don't have to be friends with all of them right away. You kind of find your people.
also, like what you're doing is like you're meeting a bunch of people, but then like you're almost it's hard because you're basing or you're trying to see like who do I want to invest in and stuff like that,
Yes, yeah.
but it's all based on like one
Name
interaction.
major hometown. Yeah, that's everyone. Just name major hometown. That's all everyone asks. Yeah, make it fun. I don't know, or ask you different
Yeah.
questions. I mean, that's the thing that
Hmm.
I wish I had prepared more because like that week's kind of over. But I'm
Yeah.
still gonna meet people this whole year.
It's
But yeah,
over. You have 1 week to make friends.
I know, but I feel like that first 3 days is like so different than
Yeah.
even now. Like just like walking around, it's like yeah, it's totally different than that first day. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, let's just talk about one last thing for both of us. Is the transition to middle school to high school hard, and is the transition from high school to college hard? Tiffany, how do we start
Yeah.
off?
I'll start off. Okay, so short answer, I would say no for me. Um I think that every season, like for me looking and thinking about going to college right now, that sounds like scary and like that would be a very hard transition. But I think that in every season that God's preparing us for the next season.
Yeah.
And I would have thought last year that going into high school would have been super scary and like even though in the big scheme of things like your high school is pretty small, like it
Mhm.
still seems really big.
Yeah.
But honestly, that first day of school, transition has always been hard for me. Like that's whenever I have a first day of school, it's always hard for me because everything changes so much. But honestly, the transition to high school for me was not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
That's good.
Everyone is doing it and everyone it's normal in a sense, and it's not like it just wasn't hard for me because like I feel like middle school prepared me for high school, and then by the time I got to high school I was ready for high school.
Yeah.
And it just you got to grow up.
You gotta grow up. Yeah. Yeah, for me, I would say it was definitely in terms of academics, it's a breeze. Like
Yeah.
I was using the same like platform we used to like
Yeah.
upload documents. I use the same it's like same style of teaching. All that type of stuff is very similar. And honestly, this first week has been like easier than like freshman year of high school. Like it's in terms of the work, it's nothing. So I'm sure that'll change.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the process is the same. So academics 100%. In terms of the actual like social aspect, living there, getting involved, and everything else about like your personal life is like the biggest change. And
Hmm.
I think it'll become more normal, and it already seems normal, like to live where I'm living, to eat where I'm eating. Like I don't feel weird doing any of that. But I would say my number one tip. Tiffany gave her a tip, but my number one tip is like go to a overnight camp before you go to college. So if you're like I don't know sophomore junior, go to like some random camp
Hmm.
just because it will help you so much. Just get used to sharing a room like with
Yeah.
people. Obviously, camp is usually a lot more like like it's usually terrible. Like it's usually really messy. It usually is super disorganized. But that'll prepare you because when you get there, you'll know kind of how to engage with roommates,
Yeah.
how to set up your room somewhat, how to keep a
Mm-hmm.
bathroom like somewhat clean. Um, and you'll get used to like eating food at a cafeteria. You'll get
Mm-hmm.
food used to, being with a group of people that you don't know and you're like meeting people. So everything about stay away camps are like the first week of college. So go to a
Yeah.
camp, get used to that, and it'll really help you.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get off, there's some things that I just like want to know. Like,
Okay.
so kind of rapid fire. Also, just so you know, we haven't talked all week.
Yeah,
So
we did
this is
not
the first
FaceTime at
time.
all. So this was
Yeah.
like 100% unscripted.
Yep. And so you're welcome. This is the first time I get to see him in a week. So it's crazy. It like has felt like a month, but at the same it's felt like a day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But food. So how has it been? Like, are you already missing food at home or has it been pretty good? I don't know.
Yes. Yes, mom. I missed your food a lot. Yes, I do. I mean, I have a cafeteria and stuff, and then I have a few different like
No way you have a cafeteria at college.
yeah, I have like an allergy. We both have gluten allergies, so I can't have all the stuff there. I feel like it'd be whoa. I feel like it'd be incredible to go to one of these places without like allergies because it's like all this food.
Yeah.
But
Overload.
yeah, they do have like lots of a relatively good amount of stuff I can eat, and then yeah, it's been pretty good in terms of just getting everything I need like to stay healthy. But yeah, it's definitely been different than my mom's food, and I am very
Yeah.
happy to get back. So I'll see you at break.
Yes. And I'm so happy we're going to get to see you really soon.
Yes, Labor Day.
So, yeah.
Well, we'll
But
do a podcast then, guys. So stay tuned for that.
yes,
My computer's about to die, so I need to like
mine is
go charge
actually
it.
too.
But it's been great giving this, Tiffany. I'm really excited. We got lots of episodes, lots of different content ideas coming up. So
Yep.
make sure to stay tuned. Share this with people that you might think would, relate to it, other siblings and people in college or not. So it was
We
great
love you
seeing you,
guys.
Tiffany. Great seeing all you guys, and we'll see you
Yep.
next week.
Peace.